topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Good morning, Tampa. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show where we bring you the top experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. I want to wish all of our Jewish listeners a happy Passover. Passover starts this evening, I believe, and tomorrow. And my mother would kill me right now for not knowing when the exact date of Passover is, but I think it's today, starts tonight. We have gotten your letters. We get phone calls, people all over Florida going, when you're going to offer this show, which is our Provise Management Group show. When you're going to offer it in other markets in Florida? Well, I just want to announce today that Provise Management Group is going to be running in all of our Florida markets, South Florida, Orlando, of course, Tampa, and we're excited that we're going to start next month. And we've got just such a great expert for our show with Provise Management Group. Let me welcome Ray Ferrara. Good morning, Ray.
Good morning, Steve, and thank you very much. Thank you very much for talking about expanding into the other parts of Florida. It's an exciting proposition, and delighted that we're going to be able to do that.
Well, I'm excited because I get the letters from people going, how come you don't run the show here in Miami, or why don't you run it in Palm Beach? But hey, we're going to be doing that starting next month, and Ray's with us twice a month. Ray, I hope you had a great weekend. Boy, I tell you what, we always have stuff to talk about, don't we?
We do. We're never for a lack of things to discuss, whether it's politics and its effect on finances, whether it's just good old financial planning, or unfortunately also geopolitical events that affect what's going on around the world.
Well, Ray, since we have so many new listeners and viewers, tell people about Provise Management Group.
Sure, Steve, thank you. Provise Management Group is a financial planning and investment management firm. We have offices in Clearwater and Tampa, Florida. However, we have about 1,200 clients nationally, covering over 30 states. So regardless of where one is located, we have been able to assist those folks. So again, one of the reasons excited to have Orlando and South Florida. We're managing just shy of about $2 billion as of the end of March, and serving, as I said, about 1,200 families across 30 states. Got 14 wonderful certified financial planners advising our clients, backed up by a wonderful staff of 16, and excited to continue to be able to do this show through June of next year with you. And hopefully others will be able to take advantage of the advice you and I share with each other, and even more if they wanted to give us a call at 727-441-9022. That's 727-441-9022. Or go to our website. It's very simple, provise.com, Provise.com.
Ray, I got to tell you, we've been doing this show for, I think, 3 years now. But it's amazing the things that you report to people on this show. And months later, we find out it was very true. So you've got such a insight when it comes to money matters. And I know we appreciate that a lot. I got to ask you this, and it seems like I ask you every week, but every week people have the same question, Ray. And it's like, I just went to the grocery store and something that used to cost me $60 is now over $100. Here in Florida, at least here in South Florida, gas is going up like crazy. A friend of mine went to Costco the other day and told me that their gas is over $4 now. And it just, people are writing, going, how is it that everything is up and the president tells us how great the economy is? So I hate to ask the same thing again, but there's so many people want to know and understand.
Well, Steve, there's a lot of ways to attack that question, and so I'm going to try to touch on many of the points as I can. There is nothing incongruent about the economy being in good shape and interest rates being higher than they have been historically over the last, let's say, 15 years. Prior to 15 years ago, the 10-year Treasury actually averaged between 4.5% and 5.5%. This morning, it's at about 4.9%. Excuse me, that's the 2-year. It's at about 4.9. The 10-year is at about 4.6. So while these interest rates feel high from a historical basis, looking back over the last 50 or 60 years, they're really not high. They're probably really where the middle of the pack has been. And as a result, the businesses have been able to adjust to it, just as they did back during the 70s, 80s, and even into the 90s. And so that is okay, because now we're starting to get higher earnings after having had a recession in earnings, hence the nice run up in the market over the last 6 to 8 months, even with the small pullback we've had since the end of March. So nothing incongruent there. The problem is that prices across the board, at least measured by the CPI, over the last 5 years are up 23%. So everything that cost $1 before is now costing $1.23, and you just talked about gasoline. The good news is that because businesses have been able to operate even in this higher interest rate environment than we've been used to, they've continued to hire people to the tune of several 100,000 people every month. And while many of those jobs are low-paying jobs, it's still people who weren't employed last month that are employed this month that are adding to the spending of the consumer, which represents about 70% of our economy here in the United States. So that's why it's been able to continue to grow, because more people are working, more people are spending, and as a result, the economy's grown in spite of the high interest rates. The concern is that the Fed at this point, which we have talked about, as you know, for over a year, that we said we thought interest rates would stay higher for longer, and we still believe that's the case. We're disappointed that we never thought that there were going to be 7 cuts, as many people believed at the beginning of the year. We thought we might get 3. Now we're looking at maybe 2 that will happen, maybe 1 in July or September Fed board meetings, and then maybe 1 after the election. There'll be 2 times that the Fed will meet after the elections. But if the Fed were to raise interest rates from here, it would send shockwaves to the market, and I don't think they're prepared to do that. So a lot of different factors converging upon each other. But at the end of the day, our economy is growing. There'll be a recession sometime, Steve. But again, even though everybody looked for one last year, we said no. If it happens, it'll happen this year. Doesn't look like it's going to happen this year, but there will be a recession in the future, and it's a natural part of the order of things for us to kind of clean out some of the excesses that build into the system. So we're continuing to look for a growing economy throughout the rest of this year, and we're looking for a stock market to be higher at the end of the year than it is today. How much higher? We're still up 5.5%, 6%, even with the pullback we've had. But we would suggest that, maybe we're going to get another 8 to 10% on top of where we are now. But as we talked about at the top of the show, there are so many factors, including geopolitical events, that can disrupt things. So it's always what we don't know that surprises us and causes bad things to happen.
Ray, what about, there's so much going on in the Middle East. How about these attacks on Israel? How are they going to play out in the market in the coming weeks, especially with price of oil?
First of all, let me echo with what you were saying. Happy Passover to all of our Jewish clients and friends that are out there, and hopefully the world will be safe. It is not, it's always a difficult time during one of these major holidays that bad people try to do bad things. And so keeping everybody who will be celebrating this evening and tomorrow, hopefully they're safe and well, and that nothing bad happens. But the good news is, in spite of the rockets flying back and forth from Iran to Israel and Israel back to Iran last week, the two countries seem to have kind of tamped down the rhetoric a little bit, both being able to declare some victory. And Iran, which is producing about 5 to 6% of the world's oil supply, it looks like those supplies are going to stay on the market, at least for now. Which is a good thing. Also, the Biden administration has asked the Ukrainian government, and in its military war with Russia, to be to be careful in bombing any refineries in Russia, because they don't even want that oil off the market. Even though it's not coming to the United States, it's going to other parts of the world, most notably India, to hold prices down. The last thing the president wants to see is the price of oil going up, which is the price of gasoline going up. With the price of gasoline going up, consumers have less money to buy other things. You have inflation because of higher oil prices, not just for automobiles and trucks, but it runs all the way through our economy. And the president doesn't want to see inflation moving back upward between now and November. It would be disastrous for his reelection chances.
Yeah. We're talking about inflation, and there was some pretty bad news on inflation a few weeks ago. Now, what is your opinion now? What's going to happen with interest rates? Let's go through that again.
Well, again, first of all, we did get bad news. It ticked up just a little bit above where expectations were. And it wasn't dramatic, but it was enough to put the market into a little bit of a tailspin over the last 10 days, or really since the end of March. So again, we think interest rates are going to stay higher for longer. The Fed is going to meet next week. We think that they'll come back out afterwards and say they're holding interest rates where they are, that the economy is doing well with these higher interest rates. There's no reason for us to reduce interest rates at this point. And until we break the back of inflation and continue to see inflation continuing to go down, albeit very slowly, then and only then will interest rates go down. As I said earlier, our thought at the moment is maybe 2 cuts this year, down from our original expectation of 3 cuts. We will have higher interest rates. Good for savers. In a money market today, you can earn about 5%. Banks are actually starting to pay a little bit more in their savings accounts, not a lot more, but people ought to be looking to move the money into money market funds, not into savings accounts if you've got the money at a bank, because that way you will end up getting higher and better interest. So look for interest rates again to stay higher for longer, just as we've been saying since the beginning of the year.
We just got a text in. Oh, what is your opinion? I've been considering buying gold or silver. Gold is really expensive, but I wanted to know what your thoughts were on should I put money in my portfolio with precious metals?
So gold has had a very nice run over since the first of the year. In fact, commodities in general have done extremely well. Gold, which has always been considered a storehouse of value when things go awry, is going to continue to do well, although there probably will be some consolidation because it has done so well in the short run. The risk on trade, meaning buying stocks long, is off at the moment. We've seen that with Bitcoin having pulled back from its recent high in the upper 70,000s, now in the mid 60,000s. And so gold, as people think about inflation and the dollar being worth less, has always been considered a storehouse of value. Unfortunately, when you really examine gold over the long term, and I'm going to say over the last 30 years or even 40 years, it has not done as well as people have thought it should have, given particularly the inflation that we've had. I mean, if it was a good hedge for inflation, one would think that if prices are up 23%, as you and I talked about just earlier in the show, the gold would be up 23% over that same period of time at a minimum. And it's not. It has risen recently, and maybe one could argue it's catching up. But gold is what's in the eye of the beholder. What do you believe it's worth? It doesn't produce any dividends. It doesn't produce any interest. It doesn't manufacture any goods. The same thing is true with Bitcoin. And it's why we have continued to shy away from those types of investments where the economic value is only the beauty that's in the beauty of the eye of the person who wants to buy it. We much rather prefer to stay at least on the equity side of things. We would much rather prefer to stay with good dividend paying stocks where you're going to get 2 to 3% out of your portfolio. If we only get 2 or 3% appreciation on top of that, you're better off than bonds. And historically, stocks have done significantly better. So owning a little bit of gold, owning a little bit of Bitcoin in your portfolio, we're not going to add it. But if you want to add it to your portfolio, that's fine. But no more than 3 to 5% of your portfolio in those types of total in those types of investments. If you want to hedge, that's fine, but not with a significant amount of money. And don't do it with your serious money. Do it with what I refer to as your Las Vegas money.
Okay. We just got this also, Bruce in Sarasota. Every Sunday, I keep seeing TV shows about retirement planning. I followed up on one, and the next thing I know, they are recommending that I transfer all the retirement plans to them in an annuity. Does this make sense?
It never, Steve, never makes sense to do anything financially with 100% of your money. Do annuities have a place in one's portfolio? For some, they do. But unfortunately, a lot of the people who are touting these annuities are putting people into contracts that have a very high surrender charge. The product pays a very big commission to people. And the longer the surrender charge, generally, the higher the commission that somebody is being paid. If you have listened to one of those shows and you've been pitched an annuity, and particularly if it's 100%, at a bare minimum, go get a second opinion. Whether you come to Provise Management or not, get a second opinion. But to put that many eggs into one basket just does not make sense. And again, annuities have a place in the right portfolio with the right people, but moving 100% of your money into an annuity, or even 50% of your money into an annuity, just somehow just doesn't feel right, and it doesn't sound like it's in your best interest. It sounds like it's more in the interest of those people that are selling the annuities. And unfortunately, Steve, they make the product sound like it's so good, and they think that every woman should fit into a size 6 dress, and every man should fit into a size 40 suit. And Steve, even I don't look good in a size 40 suit, but I know you won't either.
Me and my Speedo. Ray, I got to tell you, we get emails from people wanting to know they have a financial planner. But it's funny, after listening to your show, hearing you talk every month, they want to know, is it okay for them to come to you to get a second opinion?
Absolutely. And just like in dealing with our own health, often people feel like they need a second opinion from a doctor before they undergo treatment or an operation, perhaps. Nothing wrong with getting a second opinion. And when you're dealing with any financial planner, please be dealing with one that is a certified financial planner. They subscribe to a code of ethics, which include acting at a fiduciary standard of care whenever providing financial advice, meaning they always have to put the client's interest ahead of their own. A lot of people call themselves financial planners, but they're just salespeople, and that you need to avoid that. I'll liken it this way: there are certain things that those folks can do, but subscribing to a code of ethics, getting continuing education, etc. Is quite different for a certified financial planner than it is for other financial professionals. So yeah, get a second opinion. And by the way, get the first opinion in writing, and always ask for them to fully disclose their compensation. How much are you going to make if I buy this product? You have a right to know. And if they tell you, well, it's none of your business, then my advice to you is you don't need a second opinion. You just need to go somewhere else.
I love it. Ray, I got good news and bad news. The good news is you're going to be back with us again next week. The bad news is we've come to the end of the show. Give people your phone number as well as your website.
Perfect timing is scrolling below us right now. Call our office for a complimentary 1-hour consultation at 727-441-9022, 727-441-9022. And if you want to learn a little bit more about us, go to provise.com. That's PROVISE.com. provise.com. You can learn more about us. And again, everybody is entitled to a 1-hour free consultation with one of our CFP professionals. Steve, always good to be with you. And I look forward to seeing you.
We'll see you next week.
That's right. We're going to do back-to-back shows, and that's great. And look forward to seeing you then.
Thank you, Ray. That's Ray Farrar, Provise. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we've got incredible show. We've got our personal injury attorneys. If you ever been in an auto accident, got hurt and just didn't know what to do, or maybe you slipped in Publix, didn't know what to do, we've got it for you. We'll be right back.
And we are back with the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV with your hosts, Steve-O, Sophia, and their expert guests.
And we are back. We've got two of the greatest personal injury attorneys in the state of Florida. I hope Angela is with us. I see she's coming on.
Not sure what's going on with the camera.
We hear a voice, but we don't see you.
I don't know why I don't know why it's not working, quite honestly.
Let's
Not
see.
sure.
So there you go.
There we go.
Hi,
Good morning.
Angela.
Hi, Steve. Sorry about that. I'm actually on Lauren's computer. Mine is occupado right now, and Lauren is under the weather today, so you've got just me.
We understand that, and we'll tell her you said at least we have the better half today.
That's probably not true. But thanks.
Angela, I got to tell you that your area of law, personal injury, is so important, especially for someone who's never been in an auto accident and has been injured, someone who's had a slip and fall. There's so many areas that you cover. And I got to tell you, I learned a long time ago, you want an attorney that represents you to at least make the playing field level. And that's what your firm does.
It is. Definitely is.
These insurance companies are very good at giving you the least amount possible. And they're hoping that you don't have an attorney so they can pay out the least amount possible.
That's true, Steve. But we represent people who are, only injured. Not every car accident results in injuries, thank God. But a lot of times people are injured, and sometimes so significantly so that their life is never the same. And so, what we do, of course, is we keep our clients advised as to what they may or may not be entitled to under the law, under the insurance laws, under the Florida laws, and we help them to secure what they are entitled to, whether it be medical bills paid, whether it be pain and suffering, whether it be some of their lost income from not being able to work. There's a lot of ways that you can minimize your losses, but if you don't know those ways, certainly the insurance company isn't going to tell you. They're not going to volunteer that information. So it's always good to consult with an attorney if you know you're hurt.
Angela, tell people what no-fault insurance is.
Sure, Steve. Well, everybody in Florida who has a vehicle that has a license plate on it and it's registered in the state of Florida is required to have a minimum of two kinds of coverages. They are required to have property damage coverage, which is what protects a person's property if you were to, let's say, accidentally rear end somebody and you damage their car, you hit a pole, you damage the Duke Energy pole, you hit someone's fence, you accidentally hit someone's house. You've got to have property damage to fix or replace the property that you damaged. The other element of coverage that you have to have is called no fault insurance, or what's called personal injury protection. It goes by two names. And that is medical coverage that protects you up to $10,000. It pays the first $10,000 in medical bills you incurred. So some people have more than 10, but the minimum required in Florida is 10. And we believe that that was put into place so that people can, if they're hurt, they can seek medical treatment and without hesitation of, I can't afford it. How am I supposed to pay for this? And also to protect the hospitals throughout the state of Florida for the people that go in and get treatment there. We want to make sure the hospitals are able to get paid and they don't turn these people away. So those are the two types of coverages that are required in Florida.
Now, if someone misses work, it's a result from a car accident, can they recover their lost wages?
They can. There's two ways to do that. The first way is through the no fault that we were just talking about, which would be your own insurance. If you did not choose to waive that wage loss coverage, your no fault would pay 60% of the wages that you lose. So you would have to submit, several weeks of pay stubs to show that how much you were making. You would need to provide a doctor's note that says, look, I can't work as a result of the car accident. And we would submit that, or you would submit that to your own auto insurance carrier. And let's say it turned out that you lost $1,000 of income. Your auto insurance would give you a check for $600. The other way to get lost wages is to collect it from the at-fault driver, his or her insurance company. So you would provide proof of, again, what you were making. You'd provide proof that you were out of work, and you would provide a doctor's note that said I couldn't work. And then the at-fault insurance company is obligated to, not saying they will, but they're obligated to pay the income that you lost as a result of the car accident.
What about statute of limitations as to when there's an auto accident case? Are there actual statute of limitations?
There is. Just like in criminal cases, there's a statute of limitations, and that's just a fancy legal word for what's my time limit to bring a case? How long do I have to bring a case? Forever and ever, it's been 4 years in the state of Florida. So if you got into an accident today, which April 22nd of 2024, you would typically have until April 22nd of 2028. But just 13 months ago, the Florida legislature decided that that was too long, and they changed it from 4 years to 2. So if your case is not resolved by that exactly 2 years, that date, specific date, and you have not filed a lawsuit by that date, you would be forever barred. You cannot get around it.
Wow.
It's not a long
amazing.
time.
No, it's not. What does somebody do that doesn't feel they're in an auto accident? They don't think they're hurt at all, but sometimes injuries pop up 3, 4, 5 days later. What do you do in that case?
Yeah, we do see that a lot, Steve. And sometimes it's in those accidents where, it's not catastrophic injuries with broken legs and broken arms and things like that. We do see that, and it's kind of analogous to, if you go and you start working out for the first time in a long time, and you go to the gym and you're running and you're lifting weights, and you come home and you feel great, and the next day you feel good, but then the day after that you can't move. That's what it's analogous to. I mean, it happens a lot, because you've got to understand that when people are in an accident, their adrenaline tends to rush. Sometimes they'll feel an immediate headache, or they'll feel, like their neck is a little bit tight, but they're so focused on, dealing with the fact they've just been in a crash. The police are responding. They've got to get their car out of the road. They've got to deal with calling, their job or wherever they were heading. And so the focus really becomes on dealing with this, I like to say, this mess that you're in, whether you're on a highway or on a side street. And then once the body starts to calm down is usually when people start to feel it.
Angela, what I love about your firm, Zervis and Calta, you really do care about your clients. And either you or Lauren are going to work with them. And there are so many firms out there. You go through an intake person, then you go through another and you never even really meet the attorney at all. I mean, if I'm hurt some way, I want to work with the attorney. And that's what your firm does.
Yeah, that is what we do. And Lauren and I have both, though we haven't had Zervis and Calta for 30 years, Lauren and I have both been practicing, me for almost 30 and Lauren for 30 years. And despite having been in practice that long as trial attorneys, we both feel very strongly that if somebody calls us, we're honored by that, because that means that they trust us. They've looked us up. They've looked up our qualifications, our experience. They've looked at our reviews, and they expect to be treated the way that the people are that write those reviews. And we think that if they call our office because they need something, that they should speak to one of us. And so we have made that basically our business mantra, so to speak. That's how we practice. And it's served our clients well. It's served Lauren and I well. We have a very strong reputation in the community. People usually say to us, you treated me like family. I wasn't intimidated by you. I didn't feel like I had a stupid question. No question is stupid. And so,
yes,
when you call an attorney, Steve, you want to speak to an attorney. You want to meet with an attorney.
Yes.
You don't want to meet with a receptionist
Exactly.
or a secretary. You don't want some guy who's making minimum wage coming to your house to sign you up that's not going to be able to answer any of your legal questions. So Lauren and I, even though it takes a lot of extra time and we spend a lot of extra hours at the office, I think that's important to continue to treat our clients that way, because they're all important.
See, Angela, you know what? A lot of people want to get that money right away. And to me, if you have a good attorney, it's not going to happen right away because you want this negotiated. To me, someone who settles right away left money on the table. And that's one of the things that you all do. So one of the things people have to learn to be patient.
Yeah, well, Steve, sometimes, and especially in Florida, which is one of the most dangerous places to drive. And I say that not only because of all of the people that are moving here. We had a pretty big population in the state of Florida before COVID, and now the roads are just inundated with people here all the time. But not only is that a reason why it's so dangerous to drive here, but the other reason is that Florida does not require its drivers to carry bodily injury coverage. So if you don't have uninsured motorist coverage on your policy and you get hurt by somebody who doesn't have bodily injury coverage, you're pretty much, stuck in a boat without a paddle. And so because Florida doesn't have required bodily injury, and the minimum that you could buy in Florida is $10,000. Sometimes we see people who get injured and the insurance company settles right away for the $10,000 because that's all they've got. And so the case will settle quickly because that's all the insurance that there is.
Yes, that's right.
So one of the things Lauren and I try to persuade our clients to do is when we sign them up and we look at their policy, if they don't have uninsured motorist, we try to encourage them to buy, even if they buy just $10,000, because we've seen it time and time again that we tell them they don't want to buy it. And then 6 months later, a year later, they get into another accident and they say, I should have listened to you. So it's a tough place to be. Florida's it's a tough place to practice law, personal injury law, and it's a tough place to be a driver.
Angela, I want people to write your number down, 727-937-3171. Because I'm going to tell you, I have never, Angela, seen drivers drive so bad. Everybody seems like they're more in a hurry than ever before. I know there's a lot more people down here because people moving here from New York. But I'm telling you, driving is just horrendous now. You never know when you're going to be in an automobile accident. And one of the things great about this show is if you've never been in an auto accident, been injured in an auto accident, you have no idea what to do. Do I call an attorney first? Do I go to a doctor first? I think it's just so important that people have your number because you never know when you're going to be in an accident.
No, that's definitely true, Steve. And besides being injured, it's very difficult to navigate with the insurance companies. They frustrate you to no end. They, a lot of times will dilly-dally on, getting your vehicle from a tow yard, putting you in a rental car. They delay in their investigation of the claim because they've got to investigate the claim first to find out if, their driver is responsible. And if their driver is responsible, then they've got to get your car out of the tow yard. And then they've got to evaluate the damage to the car. And then they've got to put you in a rental car. And, a lot of times they just don't care and they move slowly. So on top of being injured, you've got people incredibly frustrated with how they're being treated. And, they feel like they're getting the short end of the stick. So, yeah, one of the reasons why it's really important to seek a consultation from an attorney, which is always free, of course, that's after you've been to a doctor. You got to take care of yourself first before you see an attorney.
Angela, we're talking about people who've never been injured in an accident before. Tell people how you charge, because a lot of people don't understand that either.
Yeah, Steve, and that's sometimes a hesitation for people because they say, I didn't know that you get paid on a contingency basis. If I would have known
Right.
that, I would have come to you sooner, and we don't get paid by the hour. And when I say we, I don't mean Lauren and I mean personal injury attorneys in general. Florida law provides that we get paid only if we recover money for our client, whether it's by way of a settlement or whether we end up going to trial and we have a jury render a verdict and then a judgment is entered by the judge. Once there's a recovery of funds, then we get paid. And all the attorneys throughout the entire state of Florida get paid the same percentage. So it's a sliding scale. If the case is not litigated, meaning it doesn't have to go into the court system and it's able to be resolved without a lawsuit, the fees are a third, up to $1 million. But if it has to be litigated, meaning we have to file a case with the courts, then the fee is 40%. And if we're unsuccessful, the client doesn't owe us any money at all. So there's really no downside to hiring an attorney. You don't come out of pocket anything.
Angela, you do so much work before you realize the first dime when it comes to representing a client.
No, we do.
There's so much
out there. Especially on cases that go to trial, Steve.
Yes.
Because you're talking about, quite honestly, hundreds, if not approaching 1,000 hours in work, litigating the case, preparing it for trial, spending time in the courtroom. All of that is, lots and lots of hours and lots of time. And you don't know what the outcome is going to be. I fortunately have been blessed. I haven't lost a case in 20 years in the courtroom. And my intention is to continue that, and always be prepared in the courtroom. And I want to be undefeated by the time I retire. So,
Angela, there's so many categories under personal injury. I mean, it's not just auto accidents and slip and falls. I mean, it's wrongful death. It could be motorcycle. It could be boat. There's so many areas under the personal injury that people don't understand either. I mean, even dog bites.
yeah, there's well, there's your basic. Everybody assumes it's just car accident cases.
Right.
Anything involving motor vehicles, whether it be trucks, trucking accidents, car accidents, motorcycle accidents. If you're on a bicycle, if you're walking and you get hit by a car, you're walking, you get hit by a bike. Anything along
Yes.
those lines. Slip and falls, you go into the grocery store and there's grease on the floor because they didn't clean it up, and you slip and you break your back, you break your neck, you break your leg. You're walking and you trip over something that shouldn't have been there, that was kind of hidden from you, and that's a trip and fall. Of course, there's medical malpractice cases where people feel that they were misdiagnosed or mistreated medically, and they suffered damages as a result of that. There are dog bite cases. Of course, there are mass torts, which are dealing with chemicals. You've heard of the Roundup cases, Camp Lejeune, the water cases.
Yes.
Pharmaceutical pills, things that are FDA approved, and then 5 years later you find out that they're killing people. Those all fall under the category of personal injury.
I think the next big area, Angela, is going to be these injections for weight loss.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah. I'm telling you, because there's been some people who've had some severe side effects already. And, I think we've run the Camp Lejeune is about to run out, but I think these injections are going to be the next big area.
It might be. I hope not. I really hope not.
I hope not too, because, I'm not going to get into it. I'm just saying I'm starting to see ads now that attorneys are running, and that's usually how it starts off. Angela, what about if you've got a personal injury claim, and are you still allowed to work?
Yeah, of course you're allowed to work, Steve. If you're physically able to work, people have to continue to make a living. The insurance company isn't going to pay you as the weeks go by. What they do is they make an offer, a one-time settlement offer. So, that could take months, it could take years before the case is resolved. But in the interim, if you're physically able to work and you've got to work, it's perfectly fine that you continue to work, albeit a lot of our clients are doing it, but with struggles. They're having a hard time sitting at their desk all day or standing on their feet all day. Some people have to switch jobs to find a job that is more conducive to their physical limitations, but yeah, if you can work, then you should work.
We're coming to the end of the show. I want people I think people have found out today that you work on a contingency basis, that it's so important, Angela, that a person have representation, because you can end up saying the wrong thing to the insurance company and not knowing better.
Oh, absolutely. They love to get statements from you early on. They'll turn on a recorder and they'll ask you questions very, very early on. And sometimes you really don't know the extent of your injuries, so you don't really tell them. And they end up using that against you down the road. Yeah, it happens way too often. Or they send a driver to your house and they try to cut you a check for $2,500, and they say that it's earmarked specifically for your unpaid medical expenses. But then if you looked at the small print on the check that they gave you for $2,500, it says full and final settlement. So people need to be very careful. They need to be very careful, and it happens all over. It's happening all the time. This is not a rare. It's not a rare event. They have no problem taking your money for your premiums, but they have a huge problem paying it out when you need it, and that's why we're here.
Let's give people your phone number who are listening on radio. Give them your phone number and your website.
Thank you, Steve. Yes, you can reach us at area code 727-937-3171 and check us out at our website at www.zervosinjurylaw.com.
And you'll be back again with us next week. And let's hope that Lauren's feeling better.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right, next week. Thanks, Steve. Have a great week.
Thank you so much. We'll
Happy
see you
Monday.
next week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
They are listen, we got to get out of here, but Zervos and Calta, 727-937-3171. And we'll be back again with you next week with more Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.